Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 12, Creation of Kumaras and Others. And we're going to we'll read through the translations from text 4 through text 20. And then we'll come back and read the purport for text 11. So you do the Sanskrit translation, right? So we'll take turns. I'll start. In the beginning, Brahma created 4 great sages named Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semen's flowing upwards.
Brahma spoke to his sons after generating them. My dear sons, he said, now generate progeny. But due to their being attached to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality Godhead, they aimed at liberation, and therefore they expressed their unwillingness.
On the refusal of the sons to obey the order of their father, there was much anger generated in the mind of Brahma, which he tried to control and not express.
Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out from between his eyebrows, and a child mixed blue and red was immediately generated.
After his birth, he began to cry, "O Destiny Maker, Teacher of the Universe, kindly designate my name and place."
The all-powerful Brahma who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request, and said, "Do not cry. I shall certainly do as you desire."
Thereafter, Brahma said, "O chief of demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all people, because you have so anxiously cried."
My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity.
Lord Brahma said, "My dear boy, Rudra, you have 11 other names: Manu, Manu, Mahinasa, Mahan, Shiva, Ritika, Ritvadvaja, Ugrareta, Vava, Kala, Vamandev, and Ritavrata.
O Rudra, you also have 11 wives called the Rudranis, and they are as follows: Di, Triti, Rasala, Ma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Swadha, and Diksha.
My dear boy, you may now accept all the names and places designated for different wives, and since you are now one of the masters of the living entities, you may increase the population scale.
The most powerful Rudra, whose bodily color was blue mixed with red, created many offspring exactly resembling him in features, strength, and furious nature.
The sons and grandsons generated by Rudra were unlimited in number, and when they assembled together, they attempted to devour the entire universe. When Brahma, the father of the living entity, saw this, he became afraid of the situation.
Brahma told Rudra, "O best among the demigods, there is no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes, and they have even attacked me."
My dear son, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities, and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before.
By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses.
Sri Maitreya said, "Thus, Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of all the Vedas. Addressing him with the words of assent, he entered the forest to perform austere penances."
So read text 11. Vedrinanya Surgomna Nirjalamahi Yasandras Tapaschaiva Agre Kritanite Vedinjaya Susama Fire Nirjalamahi Yasandras Tapaschaiva Vedinjaya Surgomna Nirjalamahi Yasandras Tapaschaiva Vedinjaya Surgoma Vairagirjalamahi Suryas Tapaschaiva Sanyanagate Read. Okay. Read. The heart. Indrayani, the senses. Asu, life. Vyoma, the sky. Vayu, the air. Agni, fire. Jalam, water. Ahi, the earth. Surya, the sun. Chandra, moon. Tapa, austerity. Cha, as well as. Eva, certainly. Stanani, all these places. Agre, here and before. Ritani, already made. Te, for you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. Purport. The creation of Rudra from between the eyebrows of Brahma as the result of his anger, generated from the mode of passion, partly touched by ignorance, is very significant. In Bhagavad Gita 3:37, the principle of Rudra is described. Krodha, anger, is the product of kama, lust, which is the result of the mode of passion. When lust and hankering are unsatisfied, the element krodha appears, which is the formidable enemy of the conditioned soul. This most sinful and inimical passion is represented as ahankara, or the false ego attitude of thinking oneself to be all in all. Such an egocentric attitude on the part of the conditioned soul, who is completely under the control of material nature, is described in Bhagavad Gita as foolish. The egocentric attitude is a manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart, wherein Krodha, anger, is generated. This anger develops in the heart and is further manifested through various senses, like the eyes, hands, and legs. When a man is angry, he expresses such anger with red-hot eyes, and sometimes makes a display of clenching his fists or kicking his legs. This exhibition of the Rudra principle is the proof of Rudra's presence in such places. When a man is angry, he breathes very rapidly, and thus Rudra is represented in the air of life, or in the activities of breathing. When the sky is overcast with dense clouds and roars in anger, and when the wind blows very fiercely, the Rudra principle is manifested. And so also, when the seawater is infuriated by the wind, it appears in a gloomy feature of Rudra, which is very fearful to the common man. When fire is ablaze, we can also experience the presence of Rudra. And when there is inundation over the earth, we can understand that this is also the representation of Rudra. There are many earthly creatures who constantly represent the Rudra element. The snake, tiger, and lion are always representations of Rudra. Sometimes, because of the extreme heat of the sun, there are cases of heat stroke, and due to the extreme coldness created by the moon, there are cases of collapse. There are many sages empowered with the influence of austerity, and many yogis, philosophers, and renouncers, who sometimes exhibit their acquired power under the influence of the Rudra principles of anger and passion. The great yogi Durvasa, under the influence of this Rudra principle, picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and a Brahmana boy exhibited the Rudra principle by cursing the great king Parikshit. When the Rudra principle is exhibited by persons who are not engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the angry person falls down from the peak of his improved position. This is confirmed as follows. Ye nyara vindaksha vimuktamaninas chaivasta bhava avishud habud hayaha aruya krichena parampadam tata patantyadho nadrita yusmad angayaha. Bhagavatam 10.2.32. The most lamentable fall down of the impersonalist is due to his false and unreasonable claim of being one with the Supreme. So lots of anger in this verse manifest. Again, to me, So I just want to quote this one verse in the beginning of the purport it mentioned. Maybe we can just repeat again the verse all together, or we can just read it all together. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. So this idea that Rudra lives in all these different places is quite interesting. I was thinking yesterday, I guess we're so used to winds and weather and these things, so sometimes we don't even realize that they're unnatural or extreme. Yesterday, we noticed our power was flickering and it was just acting kind of funny. And we had a repair guy come and we thought maybe something he did affected the power, but actually a tree had fallen on the power line and knocked it down. So they had to come out and fix it from what we thought wasn't a lot of wind. But when we went outside, there's actually a bit windy. And sometimes you'll see people burn, they'll have sticks in the yard and they'll create a fire and burn. And fire, if you've ever been up close to it, once it gets going, it's difficult to control, and it can become very, you get within 10 or 15 feet, you can feel the heat, anything you put in will consume, so it's very voracious, it's very powerful. So they give a lot of examples here about all the different places that this anger can manifest. But just before we dive into this, this verse quoted early in the purport, Bhagavad Gita 3.37, mentioned as the principle of Rudra, and that states the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with material mode of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." So this anger is very voracious, very, very powerful. And it generally comes about when we don't get what we want. These verses, a series of verses in the Bhagavad Gita, we develop attachments for things, and if we don't get those things, we become angry or disturbed. Rudra comes out, and it can be very difficult to deal with this anger. Very contaminating. When you become angry, it affects you for some time. Even after you start to cool down, you just feel not so great. You're like, why did that upset me so much? It has a contaminating influence. Versus a pure form of anger, sometimes you could say a righteous anger, you're trying to do your service, or somebody's defiling the temple, or sometimes you correct someone in a way that appears anger, but then afterwards you're not disturbed because you're simply correcting a situation or educating somebody, and it may appear like anger, but it's not due to attachment or your false ego. It's just because you're having to deal with the situation, and sometimes that requires some intense energy, but when it's over, you're happy and you're peaceful. So it's a different type of anger. It's not really anger in the sense being described here. That's just dealing with the modes and different situations. But this Rudra, it's contaminating and is so destructive, and one of the reasons it's very difficult to control, generally speaking, when you become angry, when anger overcomes us, at that point, it's almost impossible to just stop it. It's like you're already sort of consumed by it because it runs very deep. It's described here with this ahankara. All right, there's a couple statements. When lust and hankering are unsatisfied, the element or krota appears. And it's described as a formidable enemy. And there's two key sentences here, which I thought were quite interesting. This most sinful and inimical passion is represented as ahankara. Talked about that before, I think last time I was here. This ahankara, the false egocentric attitude of thinking oneself to be all in all. Such an egocentric attitude on the part of the conditioned soul, who is completely under the control of material nature, described in Bhagavad Gita as foolish. So why is it described as foolish? It's because we don't actually have much control. If we examine scientifically, try to control our heartbeat or control your nervous system. You could artificially control your breathing a little bit, try to hold your breath. Eventually, the body's going to take a breath. Not going to be able to hold it forever. But our blood flow, or just perspiration, just the bodily functions that need to go on, we don't control them. They happen. We don't even control, and we have talked about this before, but I know a lot of students these days are studying robotics because it's a very lucrative industry. A lot of technology is dealing with robotics. And what we take for granted, take a glass of water, well, I'm controlling that, right? I'm controlling the ability to grab a glass and drink. But if you were to build a robot and you were to have to write the code to teach that robot how to drink, there's thousands of lines of code for the mechanics, the equivalent of the bones. Well, what angle do you move it? And then you have to tilt your arm and then the wrist, or else water pours out. You have to squeeze the cup, hard enough to hold it, but not hard enough to break it. So thousands of lines of code just to control the bones, the mechanics. Then you've got other thousand lines of code to control, okay, well, how much pressure and sensitive, is it too hot, is it too cold? What angle? So if we look at the body, you've got the nervous system, you've got the bone structure, you've got all these different tendons and muscles. All these different calculations have to go into simply grabbing a glass and drinking. Are we thinking about any of that when you drink some water? Am I thinking about, okay, 45 degrees, now stop, okay, 2 pounds of pressure, now turn? No, you're just, I want some water. And you grab the glass and drink. So how are those calculations happening? Well, the super soul is telling the muscles this, okay, now stop, now turn. So these calculations are going on, but we're not controlling it. So in the most basic sense, we don't control anything, practically speaking. We appear to have some control, but there's actually, we just have desire. I desire to do this, do that, and super soul and pure energies make these things happen. And yet we take credit for all of it. I'm so smart, I figured this thing out. Well, where did you get that intelligence? What intelligence was given to you to figure it out? Where Bhagavad Gita talks about the ability in man. If we're able to do something, it means we have some ability. That ability was given to us. In fact, our very existence was given to us. We didn't will ourselves into existence. We exist because someone else, the Supreme Lord, gave us existence. So our body, our mind, our intelligence, our very being don't belong to us. We don't control them. And yet we think, as this verse is describing, we're the all in all. So this is very foolish to think, well, I'm the control. So this is this ahankara. It's taking credit for all these things going on, even though in reality we don't have control over them. So this ahankara, when it doesn't get what it wants, I am the Lord of all I pervade, and when that's interrupted, then we become very angry. There are the counts changing between 7 billion, 8 billion people on the planet. Practically every one of them, the exception of a few saintly persons, thinks that the general mentality is if everyone just saw the world the way I did and understood how they should function, we would all be very happy. If people just did it this way and that way. And we're all thinking that. We're all thinking, well, people don't understand. They shouldn't do that. They should do this. And we're all thinking that this is the way it is. And so when that's disturbed and we're told or forced to accept that, no, you're not going to get your way, it's some other way, we become disturbed. A materialistic person becomes very disturbed. And that's where this krota comes in. So if we can control the key here given in this purport, if we can control our lust, then we can control the anger. We can control what we desire. George Harrison made a comment, I don't know if it's one of his songs or he wrote books. If as soon as we think that we need something outside of ourselves for happiness, we're missing the point. We're never going to be happy. I have to understand there's nothing I need outside of myself to make me happy. I might require some nutrition. I might require some facility to stay alive. I need a place to live and the temperature. There's certain things we might need to function, but for our happiness, there's nothing. So as soon as we start engaging in these greedy external activities, let me get this, let me acquire this, let me do this, thinking it's going to make me happy, we just start going down the wrong road and we'll never be satisfied. So this is the way to control this this Rudra, this anger, because when it comes over you, it's practically impossible. But if you can control the lust, then and the seeking for things, then you become peaceful, and you can not have that anger overcome you. So before I go on, I guess there's other points in here, but I wanted to maybe ask some of you what you've experienced in your life as the cause. What types of things tend to cause this anger, or what can be triggers for it? You've experienced anger. Maybe you're all very saintly, so you may not have this anger overtake you as much as some of us.
Someone tells me something that I already know.
They
try to, if they're like teaching it to me, but I already know it.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating. There's a quote. Oh, I wonder if I can remember. I can't remember the whole quote, but yeah, it's basically that. It's very irritating when people try to explain things. And there's a catchy quote that's basically that point. People who think they know everything, it's very irritating. And they're trying to tell it to people who actually. It's a good one. Yes.
I think anger usually comes from some kind of unmet need. Either like we're not meeting it ourselves or other people aren't meeting it for us.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. Huh? Sure. Okay. No, and that's okay. That's a good point, though. We need something, especially if I was thinking like being betrayed or somebody promised they're gonna meet our need or we get cheated. That can be very angry. Have a need, somebody's agreed to fulfill it and pay them a certain amount of money or something, and then they cheat us. Or it's like not only my need is met, but now this is very frustrating. Yes.
For me, it comes from when someone is intentionally being disrespectful, towards something that I feel very passionate about or something that I care a lot about, and they know this, but they still intend to be disrespectful towards that.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. Yes, here and then.
I get angry when I'm hurt.
Yeah. They say in psychology that sometimes you meet people and they're very mean and very angry. They treat people badly. And generally speaking, I don't know if this is true, but it seems like it probably has a lot of truth to it. The angrier someone is, or the meaner that is, the more they've been hurt or pain they have. So if you try to deal with that, then they become nicer people. But yeah, it's common. That's true.
When when I'm unjustly accused of something, it's infuriating.
That's not right. No, that's just not right. Yeah.
When I'm being myself and somebody completely misunderstands me.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no way of getting through to them because they just don't understand.
Doing the right thing and they're accusing you of something you're not even. Yes.
So I've experienced anger when maybe I'm on a time crunch and maybe I'm trying to get out the door and I'm carrying like everything I possibly can in one trip, and then something goes wrong, and then it's almost like my faith just slips for a moment, and I get very, I guess, pissed off, so to speak, and it's like I'm being tested, and like I lose my marbles or something.
I find that happens, and for me, what'll happen is one thing will happen. I'm at the door, I'm carrying all the stuff, and I drop my keys, and I go to make keys, and I drop this, and then that goes. It's like 5 things happen in chain reaction. I'm like, one was bad enough, but it's just lose the marbles. Really, but what else can you do?
Start yelling at objects.
Yeah, the doorway, the door to him, the doorknob, the stupid key. It's like
Being taken for granted or taken advantage of.
yeah, that's hard. When you're betrayed or taken advantage of, that can goes a little deep. It's like, all right. Yes.
When people are joking around, but you can't tell they're joking around, so you think it's like serious, but you can't tell. I wish I could explain it better, but
No, totally understand. I don't know if others do. I have this relationship with my wife. She has a sense of humor I don't always understand. Say something and I'll get bent out of shape, and she's not actually serious. She's just expressing something. Then I have to fix this whole thing because I misunderstood it and I said something. I can relate with that one.
I'm way more likely to get angry if I'm tired.
That's very true. Or hungry? Yeah, that's another one I can relate to with my wife. If either one of us starts getting snippy, it's like, okay, who needs a nap? Who needs to go and eat lunch? Because, oh, it's not that. And then sure enough, later they come like, yeah, I was really tired. The energies go down, the nervous system, the brain can't function. So then you start to. So these are examples we've all experienced it. It's possible almost not to experience it unless we're very, very sensitive. What are some ways to resolve this thing? We talked about in the beginning, control our lust, we can control our anger, and that's the process of spiritual life, is to detach from material enjoyment and seeking things, and it becomes less likely. Generally speaking, you'll find that spiritual practitioners do not become as angry as others. I lived at one point in California. The temple was near La Jolla. La Jolla is a very wealthy town. Everybody there has tons of money, and it's right on the ocean. It's a beautiful scenery. You go there for walks, and you would think everyone living there would be in bliss. It's like living in the heavenly abode. So you think, well, everyone here is really happy. They have money and live in a place. And yet, you pull up to the crosswalk and then they want to go and you're crossing the street and they yell at you because you're making them stop, or just the smallest things irritate them. And so you can see that very materialistic people can get disturbed pretty easily. Whereas spiritual people in general, they are less prone to anger. But when it does happen, what are some ways or things we can do to help reduce it or diffuse it?
Well, maybe through a very loud chanting of the holy name, and you personally, I would use that as an opportunity to realign myself and then send love to that part of myself that's distressed, because I guess by the mercy of spiritual knowledge, we can kind of take a step back and look at that as just that's a part of us that we've been given that we have to take care of, or at least how I might see it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I know for me, sometimes if I'm feeling flustered or frustrated or something, I know just taking a nice shower really helps the matter, and it helps calm and center my mind to where I can go about my day and do things to help myself, put myself in a better mood, whether it's japa or meditation or whatever sadhana you're doing.
Yeah, I believe there's a Ayurvedic principle that if you have a nightmare, you wake up after a bad nightmare, if you take a cold shower, then it washes away it makes it very easy to forget all those things go away on a subtle level. Sometimes a bad nightmare can stay with you all day or for a long time. So that's a good, it purifies on the subtle level. That's true.
I can recognize, just going to the Shastric principle, that the anger is not coming from something external to me, but it's because I have an expectation of some material benefit that isn't getting fulfilled. Either I want prestige or I want comfort. And so it's an expression of frustration.
That's a good point. Good.
Shri Shri Gornitai Ki Jai.
So I have two things. One, you can talk about it. Um, Talking about it helps you like get the steam off about it. The other thing is acknowledging that you're angry and letting it be known like that's okay. It's okay. I'm angry. Acknowledging your anger. So,
Yeah, don't talk to me right now. I'm I'm not in a good place, so people understand. This is good. Someone else said
Yeah, along the same lines, like if conversation starts getting heated or something, say like, you know what? Yeah, let me think about it. Let's get back to it, or like sleep on it, if possible. But instead of like reacting right there and then on that impulse, just kind of yeah, let me think about it.
yeah, put a pause, put some distance. Mhm.
I try when I find myself in that situation, I try to remember to breathe because breathing can bring that needed equilibrium um, to deliberate on, is this to justify anger that I'm about to engage in, or is it something that I need to reflect on in terms of acknowledging, like Bruce was saying, but also reflecting on why am I being triggered, because it's indicative of something that's in me that I need to take a closer look
Yeah.
and hopefully grow from that situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. The breathing is very effective to give that pause and also calm the nervous system. It's described, someone wrote a whole book about breathing, and it's described that if your exhales, if you spend more time exhaling than inhaling, it will calm you down. Just if you count your breaths. Whereas if you spend more time inhaling, then you'll get ramped up, increase your heart rate. So just breathing physically can help us to calm down. Another point, and many of you touched on this, is that don't shoot the messenger, right? We become angry in a situation because somebody's done something and they're just delivering our karma. They're just giving us a reaction that somewhere in the past we did. And so now we're being hampered or frustrated, whatever it may be. So, and this gets back to the deeper. Anger comes from a deep place. The ahankara, the false ego, is being shown, look, you're not in control. And so it doesn't like that. So this anger comes. So the sooner we can go back to that deep place and say, okay, what's going on? Why is this happening? What am I supposed to learn from this? What's the cause of this? Let me understand. And there's all these different things you mentioned help us do that. Put some space, take some breathing, take some deep breaths, and then understand, okay, what am I supposed to learn? Why is Krishna? Krishna doesn't want me to be frustrated. He's our best friend. He wants us to be happy. So why is he allowing this to happen? What is it I need to learn? Go in a little deeper level, and then it can help us to kind of detach and step back, and then we can start to see, well, actually, yeah, I wasn't thinking properly about things, or may not come immediately, but it can help us to kind of go a little deeper and let go and surrender to his will and all these humility and tolerance, compassion, all these things can come into play that if I think this is unjust and I don't deserve this, well, it's happening to me, so obviously I deserve it or it would not be happening. And so let me understand, maybe I'll never understand why I deserve it or what is happening, but let me at least try to understand, okay, what can I learn? What's the, uh, why is this bothering so much, et cetera. We just, 1,000 different ways to do it, but we go inside and basic principle is this person or this situation is giving me an experience. Let me not get angry at this thing that's just delivering something that I need to undergo. It's not the fault of this thing or this person. It's the cause is deeper than that. The cause is something that I need to experience for some reason. Let me understand what that is. The quickest way to get out of a suffering or difficult situation is to learn the lesson. And then we don't have to then we can move on and be happy. So let me not delay that learning that lesson, because then I'll just have to keep experiencing this frustration. And then, of course, there's the same things that we do to make advancement. When we want to be happy, when devotees want to be happy and devotees want to party and have a good time, they have kirtan, chant, or 24-hour kirtan, or 6-hour kirtan. They take shelter of the holy name. This is our daily practice to keep us connected, so we can do those same things. So when anger comes in, somebody said very loudly, chant, and go just chant the holy name, or chant real loudly. And the holy name has potency, and that can help to dispel this anger. So, yeah, just different things to do, but it's kind of a deep subject matter, and it's not something dealt with when it happens, but there are preventative things we can do, and the more we do them, by taking shelter of spiritual practices and chanting, by understanding the situation of the false ego. I'm not the controller, and right now I'm being shown that I'm not the controller, and it's very frustrating to me. So let me take shelter of that and understand, okay, how can I move with the flow of things and not fight them, and it can help dispel these things. So I think I'll stop there and see if anyone has any questions or comments.
Something about what you just said about people delivering our karma. I was thinking about this yesterday because I read a passage from a book from a devotee, and she mentions in her book this story of this man who was like in the concentration camps, and at some point the authorities like take him and just like humiliate him and takes like everything away from him. And reading that passage, I was like, just, oh my God, like, how can people like do these things to each other? Like, what made like those authority figures like do this to this person for absolutely no reason? And I was just like mind blown. And then I reflected and I thought, well, actually, like, because the reason why I thought this way is because the soul is like loving. The soul is like, the soul doesn't want to hurt other people. Like, we just want to love everyone. We just want to be in harmony with everybody. So I was like, how can we do this? And I was like, oh, they didn't do it. It's like, it's Krishna's energy. You know, we're all in these bodies controlled by the material natures. We're not actually doing these things. We're trying to fulfill our desires in the wrong ways. But ultimately, like, Krishna is the controller of everything. And he's just, like, he knows everything that everybody did. And then he's using everything that everybody did to teach everybody how to be. And I was like, oh my God. So, like, why? There's no reason to be angry at anyone. There's no reason to hold grudges. There's no reason to, like, blame anybody, because actually Krishna is just doing this major master plan using everybody's action to teach each other how to go back to who we really are.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And that helped me feel like, okay, I just need to have faith that whatever is happening to me is just an arrangement of Krishna to help me rather than like put me down or make me feel unloved.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, we see a classic example with Jesus. And what did he, in his last moments, he prayed, forgive them. They know not what they do. It's just, they're victims. People mistreating us, they're probably victims of some condition. So they're mistreated. But yeah, ultimately, it's all being controlled by forces outside of us. Somebody else had been.
Yeah, it's happened to me where things can be so difficult that I get angry with Krishna. I'm like, where's the love, dude? Like, you're this loving person. Where is it?
Not feeling it.
Yeah, like, what's going on? So yeah, what do you recommend at that point? Because I understand at least that we shouldn't be pointing fingers anywhere other than just kind of understanding that this is what we have coming to us because of our past activities. But yeah, what do you recommend for someone?
Yeah, that's a great question. At those times, for me, you have to take shelter of our faith and just understand, okay, in principle, they say Krishna is very loving. That's what all the holy folks say. And I've experienced that. Krishna is very loving. So right now in this moment, I'm not feeling that love. So I'm just going to trust Krishna. I don't understand why you're doing this. Doesn't feel very kind or loving. So why? What is it you're trying to teach me? I'm seeing a side of you that doesn't reconcile with my understanding. And just have a relationship, have a discussion, say what, and there's beautiful prayers. Queen Kuti has some beautiful prayers, and we have to go very deep and understand. Okay, Krishna, what is it you're trying to teach me? Because the Bhagavad Gita 5:29, Krishna is our best friend. So you're my best friend, and you're putting this for me. This doesn't feel like something a best friend would do. So what is it that you're trying to teach me? What is it? Why am I going to? Because there is such thing as tough love. Child runs in the street, they're going to get spoken to very sternly. And sometimes we need stern treatment. And the parent will chastise the child, and the child will cry as a result, but it's out of love. The parent is looking out for the welfare of that person. Although when they administer that love in that situation, it doesn't feel very loving. The child will cry. But as they grow up, then they realize, oh, my parents taught me not to run the street with values, so I realize they love me. So sometimes we have to have faith that Krishna does love us, even though it doesn't feel like it, but also ask him and say, well, what is it I need to learn so that I don't have to be treated this way? There's something in us that he's trying to remove, and it may be very deep, and so that would be my response and my answer. Hope that helps. Okay, I want to say yes, but we're over time, so I don't want to get in trouble. So one more. Okay.
So I love the prayers of Lord Brahma after he steals the cowherd boys and calves. And when he repents and he prays in the 10th canto, chapter 14, verse 8, there's a whole discussion that Prabhupada has about why Krishna gives us really inconvenient or circumstances that can seem harsh. And it's an expression of his special mercy. So if somebody wants to go deep, there's a beautiful discussion there, speaking about how it's not technically karma, but it's the Lord actually reciprocating with our desire for purification.
Yeah.
10:14:8.
10:14:8. So that's a research project for all of you. Your answer, 10:14:8. We talked before about Yamuna. Sri Prabhupada was really heavy with Yamuna. Why? Because she was so qualified and he had so much love for her. He just wanted her to be first class. And so he gave her little special mercies. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Shyam Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare